Hi, now I am going to start the Swarm cluster. I do have the AMI with Docker installed. From the AMI, let me start the first instance. Within EC2 dashboard, let me get into the AMI. So this is the AMI that we had created. Here I'm going to use the option launch. As already it's an AMI, it's not going to ask for the image. Let me go ahead and select T2 small, configure instance details. First I'm going to start with one instance. Add storage. I'll leave the default value 8 GB as it is. I'll add the tag with the key name as master. This I will be using it as a master. I'm going to configure the security group. Let me go ahead and use the security group that I already have. Let me go ahead and review the configurations and say launch. I do have this particular key, so I give the acknowledgement and launch the instance. When you are using the AWS EC2 instances, keep watch on the billing information, how much you have been charged or being charged, as well as keep a note on what are all the services that are running within your account. In case if you are done with your demo, make sure to terminate the instances. Of course, anything other than the free tier, it will get charged. Just to make sure you're not getting charged too much on an instance that you are not using, make sure to stop or terminate the instances. Everything other than the security group and the key page, everything else will get charged. Also, very important information, especially on the security groups, never open all the ports for the entire public. Only open the required ports for the entire public, or otherwise restrict only to your IP address. Now let me go ahead and check the instances. Yes, the instance that I launched, it's up and running. Let me log into this instance. Let me change the DNS. And this instance created out of the AMI, so it should have the Docker default installed and all the configuration that we done, especially adding the EC2 user as a part of the group and starting the Docker daemon as a part of the startup. Everything should be working fine. That we can verify with the Docker version command. Yes, it's working fine. Now let me go ahead and start two more instances from the AMI so that I can use them as a worker. We get into the AMI. I'll go ahead and start T2 small. Number of instances I wanted is 2. And network details, in case if you're comfortable creating virtual private cloud, you can go ahead and segregate the entire installation of the Docker Swarm in a dedicated private cloud, or otherwise go ahead with the default VPC itself. Storage values, I'll leave it as it is. And tag, I'll add the name as workers. Security group, I'll go ahead and reuse the security group. I'll review the details and say launch, and I'll use the same key. Most of the time it is recommended to use the same key. The reason because it will be much easier to manage the cluster. I can go ahead and remove the filter and check the status of the instances. So the master, the one we started earlier, and the workers, it's getting ready. And Docker Swarm, by default, it will get installed as a part of the Docker after version 1.13. I can get more details about Docker Swarm using the command docker swarm --help. So we are going to see how to initialize the Docker Swarm and make the worker machines to join as a part of the master and make sure the Docker Swarm is up and running. So the first thing, I'm going to initialize the Docker Swarm. So before getting into the demo, I need to make one important configuration change as a part of the security group. That is, I need to allow all the system as a part of the security group to communicate between each other in the required ports. So what I will be doing, I will allow all the TCP ports for the machines within this specific security group. So how do I add this? I can add a rule and all TCP port. I'll search for the security group and I'll select the security group in which all the instances are running. That means any instance running within the security group will have the permission to communicate in all the ports within themselves, so that all the daemons for internal communications, they will be in a position to communicate, and that is required for the Docker Swarm to work properly so that the workers and master can communicate between each other. Now I'm going to initialize the Docker Swarm init. The Docker Swarm will get initialized and this particular system will be made as a master, and it's going to provide the command how to make the other workers to join this specific master. And I can use the command to check what are all the nodes as a part of the Docker Swarm using the command docker node ls. So I do have only one machine, that is the master, and this is the host name, and that's going to act as a leader. Now let me go ahead and execute this specific command as a part of the remaining two workers. Let me copy the DNS of the worker 1. Let me make this as worker 1 and this is worker 2. So I'm going to copy the DNS of worker 1. Only the DNS will get changed. Otherwise, all the other configuration details like the user ID, private key, it's all the same. Now I am into the worker 1. Let me open another window for worker 2. I have logged into worker 1 and worker 2. Now I am going to execute this particular join command as a part of worker 1. So what it does, it provides the command docker swarm join and then provide the token. Token is nothing but a random number and the IP address of the master machine, and it communicates in the port 2377. We can verify the IP address of master machine. That's the private IP address. So I've selected the master and master's private IP address is ending with 113. Let me get into the worker machine 1 and provide this particular command so that it will communicate with the master in the port 2377 and provide this particular token and request it to join as a part of the Docker Swarm. So node 1 got joined. Now let me go ahead and execute the command docker node. So I do have a worker joined and this is the leader as already we had it within our system. Now let me go ahead and make another machine to join the Docker Swarm. So this also joined. So I do have 3 systems joined as a part of this particular Docker Swarm, 2 going to act as a worker and 1 system going to act as a master. So successfully we created 3 instances, 1 for the master and 2 workers, and we initialized Docker Swarm and made the other 2 workers to join as a part of the Swarm cluster. As a part of the next lecture, we are going to see the other features and functions available as a part of the Docker Swarm.